Thank you for joining us, and we are here to update you and also share our perspectives from the meeting we had. It's a bilateral meeting between US and UK, and I'm joined by my colleagues from British government and British Embassy. So I will have them introduce themselves. I'm Geetha Senthil, and you have my information here. Please go ahead, Francesca.
Of course. Really great to be here, and fantastic experience yesterday workshopping with academics. We had clinicians in the room, industry representatives, and government representatives. So really fantastic meeting here at Quantum World Congress. I'm looking forward to the rest of the programming. I am Francesca Manzella. I am a science policy advisor at the British Embassy here in Washington, D.C. I work on the UK Science and Innovation Network. The goal of our network is to facilitate partnerships between the UK government, US government in science R&D, but also to foster relationships between researchers here in the US and in the UK to keep the research ecosystem between the two nations strong. So I'm looking forward to having this conversation about progress in sensing technologies for health with my colleagues here. And I'll let Melissa introduce herself as well.
Great, thanks, Francesca. Yes, so my name's Melissa Mather. I'm a professor of quantum sensing and engineering at one of the UK universities in Nottingham. You might have heard of Robin Hood. That's the area that I'm from. But I also have a secondment to the Government Office for Science, and I'm the quantum specialist. So working in the Office of the Government Chief Scientific Advisor. And the ethos of that department is putting excellent science at the heart of decision making. So it was a really great experience, the workshop yesterday, to be involved. We were really looking at forging relationships between the UK and the US, particularly in this space of life sciences and healthcare, which is an area that the UK has great strengths, and we're looking to scale that capability by partnering with the US.
So thank you, Melissa. And do you mind commenting on the new quantum initiative and having health focus in the UK, and what motivated you to work with NIH and US research scientists?
Yeah, thank you. So the UK government have put together 5 quantum missions, and 3 of them are actually sensing, and there's a whole mission dedicated to healthcare. And it's a very ambitious mission. It's to have by 2030 quantum technologies, specifically quantum sensing technologies, impacting the National Health Service. So that's a very ambitious goal, and I think to achieve that, we need to be looking at partnerships and where we can leverage this. And I think something the discussion of yesterday highlighted is we need to foster a community of quantum-enabled clinicians, if you like, and we also need clinical-enabled quantum scientists and engineers. And I think we often find ourselves falling into the trap of saying this is the quantum supremacy or quantum advantage. And what I think with the community is really recognizing is we need a shared language, and we need to find where the the clinical utility is. So many of the quantum technologies, the clinical utility really is far removed from there being a qubit. So, for example, optically pumped magnetometer-based brain imaging, the real advantage there is the patients can move around. They're not restricted by the cryogenic hardware. And so when we talk to the quantum scientists, we need to have some shared dialogue where we're also considering these clinical utilities and impact on patient, and what's the actual patient outcome or benefit in the quantum sense. And we can only find that through collaborative conversations.
So I do have a question to the audience in terms of, we have heard in the last hour or so all about quantum computing. How many of you are familiar with quantum sensors or quantum sensing approaches? Okay, we have quite a few. Okay, great. So I will share what we are doing at NIH in terms of quantum. It's new programs, but I wanted to, I'll ask Francesca about UKRI and UKRI's interest in forming collaborations with the US and how you see the UK-US workshop yesterday leading forward. You know, what are your perspectives from the dialogue we had? Yes, we invited US scientists who are working and developing, who are working in quantum sensing and developing technologies, and UK colleagues brought UK scientists. So we had like this a marriage, almost matchmaking, to discuss the opportunities and what pathways exist or could be enabled for the two communities to have a continued dialogue and work together to build technologies. So I will now give this to Francesca.
Thank you so much for that question, Geetha. I'll look at it from the perspective of the Science and Innovation Network, and then I'll give a nod to my UK research and innovation colleagues. The North America office sits at the British Embassy, so they're great contacts to have. From the embassy perspective and from the Science and Innovation Network perspective, our goal is to foster those partnerships between the UK and the US. As Melissa stated, there are critical technologies that the UK is interested in. A lot of overlap with some of our international peers with these technologies as well, one of them being quantum technologies. So at the embassy and in the Science and Innovation Network, we want to find ways where we can leverage our strengths, but also see where there might be challenges in respective nations and how we can help each other fill in those gaps and support each other where those gaps lie. So this got us thinking into the health space. Now, Geetha posed a question about who's familiar with quantum sensing. That's because a lot of the attention lately has been going to quantum computing and its potential for the future. But with sensing technologies, we're a bit more in the here and now. And we wanted to understand in the Science and Innovation Network how those technologies are being used in the healthcare space and how we could promote these technologies in health and how we can accelerate these technologies in health. But more importantly, understanding the time horizon, understanding where are we now and where will we be in a year, in 5 years, in 10 years. So we thought, what better way to do that than to bring together two leaders in this space between the UK government that has a strong, the UK quantum ecosystem, that has a strong quantum community and it's getting bigger. And the US, we have NIH, DOE, the National Science Foundation who's working in this space. So for us, it was important to bring together these experts, again, going back to what Melissa was alluding to, and making sure we can ask those questions. What are the strengths in the United States? What are the strengths in the UK? And where are the areas where we could be working together? I don't want to use the word weakness. What I want to say is, what areas are we maybe not considering or are we not resourcing right now that the other nation is? And how can we work together to fill those gaps? So we saw an opportunity and we took it. My nod to UK research and innovation, they're doing a lot of this work behind the scenes already, working with the National Science Foundation, working with the National Institute of Health through something called a lead agency agreement, where they respectively fund projects, UK, US, to form joint research programs. And that's helping to facilitate these partnerships through funding.
Great. So for us, the reason why we are with UK today is that we have interest in quantum, emerging quantum technologies at NIH. And in the last 1 year, we began a program centered around quantum sensing and quantum algorithm development, quantum computing. So we have 2 announcements already published on inviting applications from researchers and companies through small business grants or to research grants to apply quantum technologies, sensing technologies to solve diagnostic problems or therapeutic interventions or drug development. So more, or even help gain more insights into disease mechanisms, understand how biology works. And so from the sensing side, from the computing side, we have interest in algorithms that can help us discover new things, like mine chemistry, for example, novel chemical space, which could enhance drug discovery process. And the algorithms we are interested also in is to enhance the computational landscape we have for imaging data analysis and genomic data analysis. We collect, we fund large consortia programs that generate terabytes of imaging data and genomic data. So having better additional suite of approaches. We don't see quantum as a replacement, but addition among the tools we have. And the sensors also, we fund several classical sensors to apply to solving biomedical or clinical problems. And what we want to bring is the emerging sensing technologies. And so from my discussions with DOE and SF and experts here like Lincoln and Carl, who are in the audience, and my UK colleagues, the quantum sensing is more mature. It's ready for prime time, where we could take advantage of it now for real world problems, whereas quantum computing is catching up. We are trying to develop proof of concepts, so not yet ready. So we have these two interests, and that's where we map onto UK's interests, because they have similar. We both have shared interests and views around the technology applications. And earlier, I heard from Azure and a few others, everybody is looking for applications. Let's figure out applications. What we are lacking is the connections between both communities, is outreach. We talked a lot yesterday is, well, we have tools, but we don't understand the needs of people who want to use these tools. So making an active effort, the quantum technologies, outreaching, and reaching out to individuals who may need, and maybe we don't know everybody who needs. So making the best effort to connect with variety of communities to have a conversation, figure out what their needs are, how you can address those needs, can build this community which can eventually help funding too, to generate better projects, and that brings more funds. So I wanted to share your perspectives on the quantum computing and sensing areas in UK from the high level view, right, where you see how you could accelerate the application space of these technologies.
Yeah, thank you. So I was part of a UK delegation to the US earlier in the year, and we had the privilege of going to the Cleveland Clinic, visiting with Laura, and we saw the IBM quantum computer in action, and we had the top quantum computation scientists from the UK. So I think it feels to me on the computing side that the US has these, if you like, large capabilities, and I think the UK has really good strengths in modular computation-based, perhaps not as general purpose, but more specific purpose applications. So I think it's a very nice complementary space there. With the sensing, I think in the workshop yesterday that we saw there's great synergies in the types of sensing technologies that are both being used. And I think something that could really accelerate, and we could arrange this through the bilateral agreements, is having not only having people embedded in different environments, but I think a lot of medical research needs to be evidence-based, and I think for that there's a real push, I think, for test beds. So if we can have clinical test beds, I mean, for example, the Cleveland Clinic have a London base, which is a nice example there. And if there are environments in which it's not only maybe engineers and physicists going into a clinical environment and vice versa, we need to actually bring the technology in. And then we can, kick the tires and go, oh, do you know what, this actually doesn't work in this situation, or on the other side, the clinicians can see what can be done. And we can do that at scale if we do that with the different relationships between the UK and the US. So I think fundamental to any quantum sensing for health is evidence-based. And that's required, certainly in the UK, to get through what we call the NICE device regulation. And I know, the regulations in the UK just map onto very well what's required with the FDA. So that's where I would say I think there'd be great opportunity to look at infrastructure and capability in test beds and demonstrators across the countries.
Well, I'll say from the policy perspective that for me, these types of events, I think, can act as a convening force for bringing those people together, bringing the right people in the room. So yesterday at the workshop, we were speaking on the whole discipline of quantum sensing in health. And yes, that includes clinicians, scientists, policymakers, but also understanding the nuances within the research community as well. It's not just physicists, it's not just engineers, it's not just biological scientists, it's that entire ecosystem. So that's something that the Science and Innovation Network that we work on, is how can we bring the right people in the room? How can we nudge groups? How can we nudge researchers and bring them in the rooms with other academics, with industry partners? So from my perspective, a goal of ours is to help bring those right people together to facilitate that action and to facilitate that engagement.
And yeah, just to add on to that, I think a real critical element, which is often overlooked, is the supply chain. So one of the, prominent quantum sensing companies in healthcare is Circa Magnetics, and it's optically pumped magnetometer based. They buy these from QSpin in the US. And so there's that symbiotic relationship. Without QSpin, we can't have Circa, and then I guess Circa's a great demonstration of the use case for QSpin. So I think the more examples of that we have, we can show the great synergies between the two countries.
And I'm also going to add to that, to mirror what you're saying, is in our conversations yesterday, it was so refreshing to see the collaboration that was already happening with the technology, with the tools, between commercial participants and the researchers. It's like, oh, we're already using these technologies and we're connected through the use of these technologies. So there is that symbiotic relationship that you were saying, and it was good to see it in the room happening organically while also building new partnerships.
And if anyone of you are interested in either NIH or UK quantum programs, feel free to reach out to us, my information, and I will share Francesca's and Melissa's information as well. So the community building and having information about who are the quantum experts, who in biomedical space are interested in quantum technology. So that kind of resource was brought up yesterday, that easily findable list of people and their expertise and projects. For example, NSF funded in bio, or DOE that funded in bio, NIH funded few projects in bio. So if there were to be a resource where people can find out quickly and reach the experts to form new collaborations. So we will be launching a prize challenge competition for both sensing and quantum algorithm development. So that kind of resource would be really helpful for innovators to reach out and to individuals. This seeks multidisciplinary teams. So people who, like, I'm glad Lara Jehi is here. She is a clinician, having the clinical and biomedical representation in these kind of meetings. Quantum computing or sensing, it's very important, especially when you talk about application space in bio. So Anywhere we have these meetings, we need to have the consumers of these technologies in the conversation to share what they see, whether their perspectives on the use of these technologies. Invite as many end users, even though you don't think they are end users, you can have them in the conversation. Alex Cronin from NSF couldn't join us. He was the 4th panelist. He got stuck in traffic. So he wanted to share his perspectives, which I kind of included in what I just mentioned about the resource, the kind of resource, the funding students who can, and mobilize students and lower the barriers for students to get into this type of applied research-based, applied research approaches where they can, highly motivated young individuals who want to learn something new and apply this. So we talked about making that possible. And international, for example, that's a great way to bring partnerships. We're also seeking international applications, like collaborations between UK, US researchers, or small businesses may be difficult, but research applications could be submitted to NIH. And under a bilateral agreement, the countries could fund their respective research, the respective research areas, or the PIs, investigators, but it's a joint program. There are avenues, so we do need community, building community and sustaining that community to continue learning from each other, how to develop optimize the technologies, learning from what the needs are, and vice versa, and adjust the needs. Now you have a new need, right? You didn't know before. You can track mitochondrial activity, so you know the mitochondria, powerhouse of the cell. All the respiration happens in a cell within mitochondria. So you can track the activity now. Melissa showed us yesterday using nanodiamond sensors, and it's a great way to get to how stressed our cells are, or how healthy they are. And people health is very important, and getting to these problems early on, even before it becomes a clinical or medical problem. Detecting these problems, it's called early detection in cancer and other diseases. The sensors are like, 10,000 million-fold more sensitive. So for different hardwares, sensors, unlike the computing, we have variety of hardwares and quantum sensors. And there's diamond LV based sensors, and there is optically pumped magnetometer. They do different things. And it's about magnetic field produced by either protein interacting with its molecule, another molecule, or at the really, really nanoscale, very small scales. And you can also look at the neuronal activity at the larger scale, and the ensemble of neurons, how they are functioning together. So there are opportunities that you can take now, take advantage of now, and develop these prototypes, mature them into something usable. And you have done a great job, the circumagnetics.
Yeah, I can personally not take any credit, but certainly my colleagues at my university have done a great job there. And I think one aspect that we should also consider is, certainly in the UK mission with impacting the National Health Service by 2030, we had a lot of discussion of what's in scope. What does that mean? Does that mean that there's a device where patients interact with? But we also are thinking of the scope of, we need to think about these biological assays, that the capability will have great value to the pharmaceutical industry and in drug discovery. So if we have assays that can help identify, new therapeutic targets, or look at the mechanisms of action then that's obviously not clinical facing, but it is impacting. And I think that really maps very much onto the NIH model and looking at, understanding the disease mechanisms, if you like, and then translating that to clinical benefit. So I think with the UK having a very large pharmaceutical industry, another thing people may not know is that the photonics industry in the UK is actually, on a par with the pharmaceutical industry. And as many of these quantum sensing technologies are optically based, we have a great opportunity there to draw the communities from the photonics industry, the pharmaceutical industry, and I think that then maps very nicely onto the US capabilities and aspirations in that area, and particularly, know-how in semiconductor manufacturing, foundries and so forth. So I think we have that synergy as well.
Great, I'm glad you brought up drug discovery process, the drug development. So the assays that you need to do in a high throughput way to figure out if a drug molecule is toxic to the cell very quickly and in a reliable way, not only find the mechanism where it's binding, what it's doing, but also is it killing the cell. And if you can do that in a high throughput way, you have helped the drug discovery process. And so so the current approaches are there, but if you can enhance them, and because of the size of the quantum sensors, so you can multiplex and not only multiplex, you can increase the throughputness if you can get the technology working in a scalable way. And so that can change how we do assays. And also the computing part. The people are already trying, the pharma companies, is to computations. Can you predict new drug-like molecules, more efficacious, better efficacy, and based on protein ligand interactions, predicting those. So there is opportunity for both biological assays using quantum sensors and the computing, once it works, once the hardware is ready. So there is, it can really enhance the way drug discovery happens.
Can I ask a difficult question?
Of course.
What's the time horizon looking like, do you think? When is ready?
So I hear from experts around who are present here, so maybe 9 to 10 years, 12, 15 years.
That's the magic number, I think.
So that's what, don't quote me on this, but it's experts' opinions. I'm just relaying the one I learned. So that's the logical qubits of certain numbers, like in million maybe. And but today I heard from Azure that 100 logical qubits is sufficient to get scientific utility in catalysis, right? That's an interesting point. And but that's so there are different opinions about this, yeah.
I also wanted to add from a public policy perspective, thinking about some of this work that you're touching on and the advances that we're seeing. We talked a bit yesterday about the importance of having clinicians in the room, but we also discussed the importance of putting this work out there, bringing this work to the clinical community as well. Clinicians have so many different assays and tests that they can choose from, many of which are already working great and meeting their needs. So it's thinking about what you can bring now, but also what you can bring to the future, and optimizing those assays to be a little bit better with each passing years, and showing that value, showing the value add of quantum research and quantum sensing.
So we have only a few minutes, and I wanted to ask the audience if you have any questions for us or want to hear from us that you're welcome to ask us. Otherwise, you lose that chance, and we'll talk for another 1.5 minutes. Go ahead.
Just to clarify, when you talk about an assay, is that a lab result? Or is it a lab?
Lab-based, yes. Yeah.
Right, rather than, I think you do the distinction between that and
Yeah, so so in terms of drug discovery, preclinical drug discovery assays happen in the lab, but the sensing approaches are very much relevant for diagnostic tests using patient samples. So if you are able to detect a metabolite or a protein of interest, like if a drug is binding to a certain receptor and the readout, you're expecting certain metabolite to be produced. And if you're measuring the metabolite, you can also measure the same in human blood samples, but you need to functionalize the sensors differently to measure in different samples. So that's, yeah. Anyone else? All right, so we have 12 seconds, but I'm going to ask final remarks from our colleagues, British colleagues here. Any last?
Okay, I'll go as we're minus time now. I think the future is bright. I think it's important that we learn each other's language in terms of the innovators, the clinicians. I think we also need to consider the people who are going to commercialize it. You know, we can't do it without them. And I think if we share our capability with infrastructure, understand each other's clinical systems, then we can deliver outputs which scale such that the outputs, you know, greater than the sum of the parts. So I think that's the most exciting thing about this opportunity.
Great, thank you.
And on my part, I would say making sure that we continue to look at this in a well-rounded way, both top down and bottom up. You know, top down, seeing what are the mechanisms in place, government to government, that can help facilitate this work between the UK and the US and bringing this work forward, but also not neglecting that bottom up. Where are these relationships happening organically, where are researchers already working together, and continue to foster those and not get in the way of that as well.
Yeah, the research community are the ones who are the bosses here. Because you drive the research, you drive the innovation, and everything else follows. So if you come up with great ideas and work with the biomedical community, then we can figure out ways to support those.
We make it work. Thank you
Yes.
so much, everyone.
Okay.